In the serene town of Redding, California, Sherri Papini was a well-known face. A petite blonde, 34 years old, she was a devoted mother to 2 kids. To many, she appeared to live for her family. Her life seemed perfect, with a loving husband and a cozy home in the hills. But in early November 2016, her name would capture national attention in an unexpected way. On November 2nd, Keith Papini came home to a chilling silence. Sherri was missing, and their children hadn't returned from daycare. Panic flooded him. He called her phone, no answer. In desperation, he used the Find My iPhone app. The signal indicated a rural road close to their home. Keith hurried there and found her phone lying cracked on the ground. Earbuds lay tangled with strands of long blonde hair. He immediately called 911. The dispatcher struggled to understand his frantic words. "I found her phone. Her hair is ripped out. I think she's been taken." A massive search effort unfolded. Law enforcement searched nearby woods. Helicopters hovered above. Volunteers plastered missing posters across every corner of the county. The Papinis held press conferences. Keith, eyes weary with worry, pleaded for his wife's return on national television. Donations flooded in. A $50,000 reward was announced for information. Sherri's plight resonated deeply. A beautiful young mother abducted while jogging in daylight? It echoed every family's worst nightmare. Then, after 22 grueling days, during the early hours of Thanksgiving, a driver called 911. He spotted a disheveled, dirty woman wandering along a freeway near Woodland, California, about 150 miles south. It was Sherri. She looked frail, having lost over 15 pounds. Her long hair was unevenly cut. Bruises adorned her arms and a brand marked her shoulder. Ligature marks marred her wrists and ankles, and a chain hung around her waist. Her story was terrifying. She claimed 2 Hispanic women abducted her at gunpoint, held her captive, and repeatedly abused her before her release when she became too much trouble. As she wept during interviews with detectives, she gave vague descriptions of her captors. They wore masks and spoke Spanish. One had pierced ears. She could only recall darkness surrounding her during her imprisonment. Her account was chaotic and emotional, convincing to many. She became a symbol of survival across the nation. News outlets aired Sherri Returns specials. Friends and family praised her resilience. Conversations even hinted at a possible book deal. Yet detectives began to harbor doubts. First, her story revealed inconsistencies. The sketch she helped create of her captors, 2 masked Hispanic women, led nowhere. Surveillance footage near the spot where she was allegedly released showed nothing suspicious. More concerning were her injuries. The brand on her shoulder lacked any identifiable cultural or gang significance. No ransom was demanded, leaving no motive for her 22-day ordeal. Then came the breakthrough, DNA evidence. While analyzing her clothes post-return, analysts discovered male DNA, not Keith's, on her underwear and sweatpants. In 2020, 4 years after interest waned, the FBI made a familial DNA match in a genealogy database. It led them to James Reyes, a past boyfriend of Sherri's. When approached, Reyes did not hesitate. "Yeah, she stayed with me. She wasn't kidnapped." He recalled in vivid detail how Sherri had reached out months before her disappearance. She claimed her husband abused her and asked for his help to escape. He drove from Costa Mesa to Redding and picked her up. Sherri left her phone and earbuds on the road to fabricate an abduction scene. For over 3 weeks, she stayed willingly at his house, hidden away. Reyes revealed how she cut her own hair, starved herself, and inflicted injuries for dramatic effect. He admitted to branding her with a hot tool at her request, hoping to make her tale more believable. He truly believed he was aiding a woman in distress, but as media frenzy unfolded, he began to question who she really was. Armed with Reyes's confession and DNA evidence, the FBI confronted Sherri, who denied everything. She insisted Reyes had assaulted her and maintained her story was valid. Despite mounting evidence, she steadfastly held on to her lie. She refused a polygraph test and continually lied to federal agents, maintaining her deception for 6 years. During this time, she amassed over $30,000 in victim compensation, along with $49,000 from a sympathetic public through GoFundMe. But in 2022, her time ran out. Sherri Papini was arrested and charged with mail fraud and making false statements to a federal officer. In court, she finally wept and pleaded guilty. "I am deeply ashamed. I will spend my life making amends for my actions," she stated. She received an 18-month sentence in federal prison, a rare but necessary consequence for her fabricated crime that consumed countless investigative hours while instilling fear in the community. Her husband Keith, who had supported her, cried publicly and raised their kids alone, filed for divorce soon after her confession. He cited her dishonesty and the trauma inflicted upon their children. In the end, Sherri was not a victim. She crafted a deceit that twisted empathy into a dramatic narrative. She once stood as a national symbol of survival, and in this, she harmed genuine victims everywhere. Her name has since lost its sympathetic undertones. Now it serves as a warning, illustrating how far someone might go for attention and how easily a community can be manipulated. The truth, regardless of time, ultimately finds its way to light. Perhaps the most haunting aspect remains. Had she not been caught, many would still have believed her. Sherri's case captured the nation, highlighting domestic violence and mental health crises. Initially, her story sparked compassion and support within her community and beyond. Vigorous discussions arose about the real dangers women face and the vital importance of believing survivors. Yet, as the investigation unfolded and doubts surged, the narrative dramatically twisted. What began as a poignant survival story morphed into an engrossing spectacle, revealing deeper truths about human nature and how society perceives victimhood. As the trial neared, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Spectators eagerly awaited the unraveling of the tale that held their attention for so long. Tension lingered in the air as disbelief mingled with emotions etched on faces that once sympathized with Sherri. Each testimony unveiled intricate layers of deceit, moving further from the perfect victim image she had portrayed. Emotions escalated as friends, family, and dedicated investigators took the stand, eager to share their heartbreak. The audience absorbed every word while evidence mounted against Sherri, dismantling the glorified narrative piece by piece. As the prosecution presented their case, the atmosphere thickened with shock and outrage. Witnesses detailed long hours searching desperately for Sherri, their hearts, once filled with hope, now weighted with betrayal. Detectives recounted sleepless nights spent on dead ends, their expressions reflecting the disillusionment from misplaced trust. Each testimony peeled back another layer of Sherri's facade, unraveling her flawless victim portrayal. The jury listened intently, their faces unreadable, but the emotional weight of each account resonated throughout the room. Friends struggled to express feelings of abandonment. The community, once united by hope, grappled with the burden of Sherri's deception. As the trial unfolded, the audience hung on every detail, emotions fluctuating between disbelief and anger. Sherri, once seen as a strong mother, sat quietly in the defendant's chair, a stark contrast to her previously emotional turmoil. Supporters' enthusiastic faces morphed into expressions of betrayal. Eyes once bright with compassion now reflected suspicion as Sherri's facade crumbled. Each spoken word during testimonies felt like a hammer, chipping carefully at her shield of sympathy. The prosecution depicted stark realities of Sherri's intentions, contrasting the community's anguish with her deceptive actions. The defense struggled, but her duplicity silenced even the most loyal, leaving a heavy silence in the wake of the truth. As the last witness stepped down, murmurs filled the courtroom, thickening the atmosphere with a mix of anger and disbelief. The prosecution delivered closing arguments, detailing the emotional toll Sherri's lies inflicted, exposing scars on her husband, children, and community. The jurors braced themselves, eyes on Sherri, whose once innocent demeanor faded, revealing her hubris. "She is the architect of anguish," the lead prosecutor asserted, voice unwavering, resonating in the hushed space. "This case transcends falsehoods. It's about eroded trust and corruption of fear." The weight of these words lingered heavily, as all present confronted the messy narrative that had once captivated a nation but ultimately preyed upon its heart. With evidence laid bare, the jury faced the significant task of delivering a verdict that would define not just Sherri's fate, but also emphasize the responsibilities tied to victimhood. The atmosphere outside the courthouse buzzed with anticipation. Crowds of media clamored for updates, while the public remained divided. Some clung to the idea of a distressed mother, others fumed at her betrayal. Conversations erupted in coffee shops and living rooms about Sherri's intricately woven emotional web as a nation wrestled with the components of deception. Days of anxious waiting unfolded, leading to the moment the jury delivered a verdict that would echo through Reading, reminding all of the fine line between truth and illusion. As the foreman rose to speak, silence enveloped the courtroom, with every eye trained on him. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Sherri Papini, guilty of mail fraud and making false statements," he stated, each word crystallizing the magnitude of betrayal. Gasps rippled through the audience, a swirling mix of relief and sorrow settling in as the truth hit home. A woman once deemed a victim had morphed into something entirely different. With solemn expressions, the judge sentenced her to 18 months in federal prison, ensuring that her actions would not go unpunished. As Sherri was taken away, The courtroom filled with collective contemplation, a stark reminder of the consequences of deceit and the lasting scars left on a community yearning for clarity. With this moment etched into the hearts of many, the lesson learned became clear. Sometimes the guise of victimhood can obscure the reality and the empathy that connects us as a community. In the aftermath of Sherri's trial, Redding coped with the emotional fallout of betrayal. Sympathy for a wronged woman shifted to difficult discussions about trust and the harsh truths faced by actual victims. As time passed, many reflected on the enduring impact of those events, questioning their own perceptions of victimhood. Families resumed their routines, yet the haunting shadow of Sherri's deceit remained, serving as a reminder that not every survival story is genuine. Sherri's name became a symbol of treachery, a poignant example of how a fracture in trust could reverberate through lives and communities. The people of Redding, united in their concern for Sherri, now stood at a complicated juncture filled with doubt and unease. Conversations grew heavier, friendships strained under the weight of disbelief woven with betrayal. Local support groups altered their discussions, shifting focus from believing women to emphasizing vigilance in understanding the complexities surrounding victimhood. Many began uncovering the ease of sympathy manipulation, all while seeking answers within the wreckage of trust. Local leaders initiated discussions, fostering open conversations about domestic violence and mental health, underscoring the importance of genuine support for real survivors. In the years following, Sherri's deception prompted vital conversations about victimhood and accountability. Documentaries emerged, books were published, and panels organized, all analyzing the nuances of her case and the broader implications. Authentic survivors found their experiences amplified, although the shadow of Sherri's story loomed over them, complicating their narratives. Though the Redding community slowly began healing, scars lingered, reminders of a betrayal that challenged their understanding of compassion, trust, and empathy. Through the turbulence of Sherri's tale, Redding grew stronger, determined to reshape its narrative around truth and empathy. Sherri Papini's story inspired crucial discussions, fostering a culture that celebrates genuine voices within the community. As they healed, they pledged to ensure that true victims would never again be eclipsed by a falsified tale that had once tugged at their hearts.